Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I'm Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord and Jake Gordon. Braves spring training is well underway, but I think the biggest aspect of spring training, for the most part, is avoiding injuries. Like you saw, we just talked like behind the scenes. We were just talking about Gavin Lux. Like that's a huge loss for the Dodgers, who now I think are going to be starting like Miguel Rojas. They go from Seager to Trey Turner to Miguel Rojas. Huge loss. And the Braves have some injuries of their own. Mike Soroka dealing with a hamstring injury, still hasn't thrown off a mound. Um, Not a great sign, especially for those guys hoping he was going to make the roster on opening day. I almost think that's almost impossible now because it's going to take him a while to ramp up with everything that's happened. I don't see it being a speedy thing. I have a hard time believing he has a real chance of being on the opening day roster. We also have Kyle Wright. We still haven't seen. I'm much more optimistic about his outlook. Joe Jimenez, haven't seen. Much more optimistic about his outlook when it comes to making the opening day roster. But a lesser known guy dealing with an oblique injury, Jordan Luplow. We haven't seen him. He's been slowed down. Oblique injuries can be something. We saw with Spencer Strider. He was out for a month with an oblique injury. Max Scherzer out for 2 months with an oblique injury. So that could be something as far as the left field competition to keep an eye on, because if he doesn't come back over the next few weeks, I don't know how he makes the roster. So those are some things I'm watching as the rest of this spring training unfolds.
Yeah, and if you look at somebody like Sam Hilliard, who has a lot of tools that they seem to be really high on, we don't see what's going on behind the scenes of practice and stuff. But if he's in the outfield throwing rockets and hitting bombs, then the team's probably going to be more likely to roll the dice on somebody like that.
Yeah, and that same breath, I mean, their approach was just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Eli White's in that competition, and he got the start today. So this is a big deal, for Luplo in terms of making the opening day roster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Eli White's had a pretty good start too. I'm pretty sure. I think he's got 2 hits, a home run, he stole a base in one game. I don't know how he's playing so far today, but I think he's been playing pretty well.
Wow.
which could be big. I mean, I predicted Luplo to make the opening day roster. As far as upside and like proven upside, he has a lot of tools the Braves should like. But if he doesn't play, I don't know how he makes the roster. But I'm pretty sure he was a major league guarantee, so they're going to have to DFA him if he doesn't make the roster. Like, he's going to be released, which is always something to keep an eye on, because if you have an option between a guy you can stash in AAA or put on the major league roster or have to release, you usually go with the guy that you could stash in AAA starting in the minors and then figure it out from there. So that's something worth keeping an eye on. What about Mike Soroka? Any worry about the hammy?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because Ian Anderson had a terrible start today. He gave up 2 home runs and 2 walks in the first inning, and so you'd think that helps, but I just don't see them. I just don't see him going with Soroka if he's not fully healthy. They've been patient with him so far. I don't know why they rush him now at the beginning of the season when they have options. So I don't know. I feel like it may end up being a situation where they put Anderson out there and then they say, okay, like, here's your, let's see it. And then if he
Because
doesn't,
he's working on some stuff right now. I mean, we talked
yeah,
about him developing a slider, stuff like that. So he's definitely working on some stuff. So it's almost not fair, because that's what spring training is supposed to be for.
yeah.
But then you have a few guys that are competing for their roster lives, and they kind of need to perform well too. So I don't put a ton of weight into Anderson giving up 2 homers and 2 walks normally, but given that he's competing for a roster spot, it's kind of a much bigger deal than it should be, because it's his first outing in spring training.
Well, thankfully for him, Bryce Elder didn't perform all that well either. Mike Soroka still hasn't even come back. And I think that you could even say it, a little bit more confidently, Chase. Him making the opening day roster is like under 5% now, because he's got to get stretched out and then also still pitch extremely well to beat out Elder and Anderson. So I think it's almost like a foregone conclusion at this point that he will not be included, given all those options as well.
I think the one thing we can take out of all of this is just how important starting pitching depth is. I mean, it's just, you talk about the Braves, they might have the deepest crop of starting pitchers in all of baseball. And now you're wondering who's going to start in the fifth starter spot. So it just shows you how important depth is. And I think the Braves are going to be fine. No reason to panic. But of course, that's not what the fans are going to do. It's
Yeah,
like,
and there's still, at the end of spring training, a couple of guys are going to get released, and then you'll have a market there with some guys that you can pick up.
I've already seen the Ian Anderson should have been traded last offseason takes. So
Yeah, that's so brilliant. Hindsight is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.